It is Tuesday, February 11, 2020, although in Australia it might be Wednesday already, but for most of us it's Tuesday. And this is the annual Chennai Storytelling Festival video conference about storytelling in the world today. And we're just going to have a little conversation. And I want to especially thank all of you for joining, but especially I want to thank Hope Lewis. Are you really in Maine? Yeah, Hope, why don't you unmute yourself, or can you unmute yourself, or should I? There you go.
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Yes, I can. Yes.
You're in Maine.
In fact, I do live in Maine, and I am right on the coast of Maine, enjoying a very foggy day here.
Is it very cold these days?
It's high 20s to mid 30s mostly, and that's.
Okay, so you're cozy.
I'm not sure how to convert that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to convert that.
So you're cozy in your log cabin. I want to tell everyone that Hope is a leading organizer of the storytelling scene in the USA, especially the Northeast USA. Are you the director of the Share the Fire conference?
No, actually, I'm not. We have quite a few people involved, and I just reached the end of my term as president of the board of directors of Northeast Storytelling. So all my attention is on you and the Worldwide Virtual Storytelling Guild. Yes, and I'm going to put the link for the private Facebook group for the Worldwide Virtual Storytelling Guild in the chat screen, so anybody can come and see what we're doing around the globe with sharing stories and community. Thank you.
And what should they Google? If they just want to type some words into a search engine, what should they Google to get your organization?
Probably the easiest, Eric, is you've got a couple of, I would go to that's for Northeast, storytelling.org. And there's a drop-down menu that says Virtual Guild. Okay, so Hope has become a leader of storytelling by video conference. She has, I've been working in this field, for many years, and I am delighted that I have been joined and overtaken. And Hope Lewis is leading the way, organizing many story swaps by video conference, and in the process of organizing many storytelling workshops by video conference. So Hope, I want to ask you at some point in the next few minutes, what is your vision? What will the world look like in 5 or 10 years? Maybe let's save it for 5 or 10 minutes from now, but you're not just a technician. I know you're a visionary. So I'm hoping you'll share your thoughts and dreams and vision of what this is leading to. I also want to especially thank Tricia. Tricia, are you there? You are there. And please unmute yourself. Where are you? Yeah.
I'm here. I don't know where, sorry, I don't know where my picture went. Oh.
Maybe when you turn, oh, there you go. Yes.
Hello, everyone.
I teach a course by video conference on storytelling for counseling and coaching. And Tricia attended the course, 2 years ago now?
I guess so.
And it was a very brilliant student in the course. And Tricia has studied literature and folklore on the graduate student level, and is a theater worker, a theater director. And does brilliant work with storytelling for healing and personality development. And she calls it, it's under the name parallel narratives. The parallel narratives being one's life story, running parallel with the healing and transformative stories that one may compose for oneself with the help of a facilitator. So I want to ask you about that work and your vision for this story work, and especially this story work by video conference in the year to come and in the years to come. And everyone else who's online here will also ask to hear from you. Do people maybe want to go around and introduce themselves real quick? Maybe that's a good idea. I am Eric Miller, born and bred New Yorker, and wherever I go, I'm New York. You can take the boy out of New York, but you can't take New York out of the boy. But here I am in Chennai on the south coast of southeast coast of India, and Hope, you've already told us you're on the northeast coast of Maine, and that you're a story person and a festival organizer and an organization organizer. Why doesn't everyone unmute themselves, and we'll take a chance that there's not a lot of interference. Uma, why don't you just say hello?
Hi, I'm Uma. I stay in Chennai. I work as a counselor. I'm a professional social worker.
Wonderful, wonderful. Banu?
Hi, I'm Banu. I'm a storyteller. I'm in Chennai, India. Nice to see you all.
And Vasugi, I think you've gotten your electricity back?
Yes, it restored just 5 minutes back. I'm so happy to see everybody here. I'm Vasugi Ram Manohar. I work mainly with children and with schools, in collaboration with schools. And I've been a student with Eric Miller for the last 7 years, and he's been guiding me. And I'm so happy to see everybody here. Great.
Ambuja?
Yeah, hi, this is Ambuja here. I too got trained under Eric 3 years back. I'm a storyteller from Chennai. And Hope, actually I have been wanting to join the Storytelling Guild. Now that I have got the link, the next thing I'm going to do after the video conference is send you a message for that. Yes, thank you.
Your box says Apple, but I know your name is not Apple.
Hi, Eric. This is Suraj here. I'm from western part of India in Ahmedabad. I work as a voice actor, and I recently completed my course on adult storytelling with Eric. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Eric, for the invitation, and hope I'll be definitely joining your group as well for storytelling. Thank
Hope's
you.
group.
Yep.
And you know, I have to say, when you join a collaborative process like Hope is facilitating, you meet people in the USA and all over the world. And next thing you know, you're traveling to visit those people and you're doing projects in the flesh with them.
Right.
In addition to by video conference. So it is a wonderful thing, Hope, that you're doing this work and you're with us to help facilitate all this communication and telecommunication and physical transportation. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Chitra, why don't you say hello? Chitra, yes, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hi all, I'm Chitra. I'm from Kerala, the southern part of India. Right now I'm settled down in Chennai. I'm upcoming storyteller. I'm looking forward to learn as well as tell more stories.
Wonderful. Divya?
Hi, I'm Divya. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we can only see half of your face. If you could tilt there you go.
Yeah, hi, I'm Divya. I'm from Chennai Pallikaranai. I do some after-school activities based at my home.
Wonderful. Trisha? Trisha, I introduced you, but I think you should introduce yourself.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm Trish, and I'm in Vermont right now, so I'm not far from Hope, small little state in the United States. And I'm a actor. I've been with people doing parallel narratives, which Eric introduced, which is a project that interviews people with a 10-minute version of their life story and then draws parallels to mythology, folklore, and stories of fantastic and magical nature to facilitate story circles.
Yes, and last year the conversation was especially about living and thinking mythically. And that is also part of this parallel narratives process. And I think more in terms of facilitating the creation of healing and transformational stories, but it all does involve having one foot in the ordinary world and one foot in the world of myth and dream and imagination. And all of this is to introduce Tim Shepard, story scholar extraordinaire. Tim, thank you for joining.
Well, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you all, and I am yes. Well, apparently I'm extraordinary. I don't know, but I'm in Bristol in the southwest of England, and I'm the founder of the Storytelling FAQ online many years ago, and I tell stories, but I also teach and train storytellers and indeed social entrepreneurs into telling their story. So very pleased to be here.
Wonderful. Fran Stallings.
Hello, I'm in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, which is right near the center of the U.S. I was in Bengaluru in late November at the Feast Festival, which was a fantastic experience. So much energy and so many people telling all different kinds of stories. It was wonderful to see. I'm a representative on the board of the National Storytelling Network in the U.S. I represent the South Central states. And we're working on keeping up the momentum of storytelling in the States.
And I know you're deeply involved with storytelling as it is used for teaching and learning, especially regarding ecological matters. Is that true?
That's right. That's what I taught about in Bengaluru, and then I went to Singapore and did some training about that. And I convened the Environmental Storytellers Special Discussion Group in the States.
Wonderful.
I'm just a retired biologist.
Mm-hmm. Valli?
Hi, I'm Valli from Chennai. I'm aspiring to become a storyteller, so I have joined under Eric 2-3 months back. So let me see what storytelling has got in store for me.
Mm-hmm. And Sushan? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe everyone
Hi.
else. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Shushan. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm an actor and I also work with psychodrama. So I met Eric in Chennai in a psychodrama workshop, and that's how I heard about storytelling. So I'm a very newcomer in this field, so happy to join you in this team.
Wonderful, thank you. Sheila, can you hear us? Can we hear you? Sheila Ramanujam? Well, we can see your rectangle. And Diane, can we hear you? Well, for now we can't see or hear Sheila or Diane. Diane's rectangle is named Wilton, but I think they can hear us. And they're sending us messages in the chat box. Okay, so here we are, and the topic, the general topic is storytelling in the world today. And okay, well, let me begin with my with something. I feel that video conferencing is coming on slowly, but like a freight train. Many people don't like video conferencing. For one thing, you have to show people where you are and what you look like. And many people prefer the anonymity of a telephone call. So for various reasons, video conferencing has been coming on slow, but it is coming. And more people can work, can teach, can train, can babysit, do all sorts of things by video conference. So I feel it's inevitable. I've been wrong about things before, but I feel it's inevitable that in not too many years to come, we'll be doing a lot of work by video conference, and really there should be work on demand. If I want to roll out of bed or get out of my bed and come sit in a chair and work by video conference, I really feel it's a human right to be able to work, depending on, choose your work. But I feel it's a human right to be able to work and make a living and to be able to do it by video conference. So I hope that's going to become more true. And in terms of social life, we're not too far off from, if some people want to talk about dogs, they should be able to meet with 4 or 5 people who want to talk about dogs, or a certain type of dog, or a certain type of cat, or the price of rice in China, as my mother used to say. Depending on your interest at the moment, you should be able to find 4 or 5 people who want to talk with you about it. It shouldn't be so hard to set up. And if that was really there, we'd still have loneliness, because sometimes naturally people get lonely and want to be lonely sometimes. But to know that you can always have join a group of 4 or 5 people and have a conversation, I think that would go a long way towards giving a social safety net, and it shouldn't be very hard to set up at this point. So in various ways, I feel video conferencing is gonna make life better, more convenient, more fun. And when you throw storytelling into it, see, we're all going to be able to train each other in the things we know about. So we'll be able to train each other in storytelling. And so I see a very bright and exciting future for video conferencing and storytelling, and video conferencing and social life, and video conferencing and work life. Am I being Pollyanna-ish? Anyone want to burst my bubble? Yes, there'll be surveillance. Yes, big brother and big sister will watch us, but we're not doing anything wrong. Any objections, protests, agreements, comments, questions? Go ahead, Trish. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Is that Chad or?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I love, in my work at the Vermont Folklife Center, we're a small staff that's trying to cover an entire state and do interviewing and oral history and storytelling with people that are sometimes 3.5 hours away. And so naturally, a video call is far more convenient, but it just absolutely cannot hold a candle to like the live interaction of that type of oral storytelling, or the dynamism or the dynamics of being together in person. And so
yes,
it seems like a really great supplement for
it's a different thing altogether. It
It
has its
is.
own
It's a different
excitement.
medium.
Video conferencing is exciting because it's partly because it's still novel, but that we can see each other and hear each other. There's an excitement to it. But of course, it's not as good in certain ways as physical presence. But as it becomes more and more common, see, as you know, Trish, I did a PhD in folklore at the University of Pennsylvania Folklore Department, which I believe now has pretty much dissolved. But my two senior professors, Roger Abrams and Dan Benamos, had to listen to me say, the folk are using video conferencing for their folk activities. And they told me, no, Eric Miller, get out of here. How did we let you come into this department? So they didn't really like it too much. But I would say, okay, it's one thing to interview people, like you say, but the fact is many of the people you're interviewing are talking to their family and friends by Skype and Zoom. So it's not necessarily an alien medium for them.
Definitely not. In the same way that memes are a huge part of folk culture now, and the way that information travels by the internet. I just wanted to put in a little bit of a stab on the, when we're all performers and live storytelling people, still want to just say that always has a little bit of a hierarchy over the
of course, and
digital realm.
The people who founded the folklore departments naturally resist this electronic process, and storytellers naturally resist it, because the whole storytelling revival grew up in a reaction against mediated electronic communication. So it's natural that many are not eager to embrace it. Fran.
I'd like to say that I appreciate having this kind of conferencing available for trainings, because when I was in Bengaluru and Singapore training people about environmental storytelling, I had to realize it was a kind of an oxymoron that I had flown halfway around the world in order to talk about environmental sustainability. Whereas if I can teach over the internet this way, we don't have to travel like that. It's no substitute for being in person, because last month I trained 100 librarians in Louisiana, 2 different batches, 6 hours apiece we were together. And that just, the energy is so very, very different. But it is it makes it possible. Also, India is huge, just as the United States is huge. Out here on the plains, traveling 3 hours to go to a conference is, driving 3 hours is routine. But still, even driving a hybrid car, I feel that's not the best thing to do. And if we can find a less environmentally damaging way of teaching and getting together, thanks to Hope, the Northeast Storytellers Group sponsored an experimental course that I did in, that was September, using the Zoom format. And I still have a lot of work, I think, to do on making that effective, but it's wonderful to have that as an alternative. Thanks.
So video conferencing is a green activity.
Relatively. I've been to see the server farms that go on, where the humongous over your head high stacks of computers go on for yards and yards and yards, and make so much noise with their cooling fans that you can hardly speak in their presence, and they are handling this traffic. But at least it's all in one place where they can use sustainable energy, and it's better than pumping stuff out the tailpipe.
Mm-hmm. And you have a great set of technology there, Fran, because your voice is coming through very clear and rich.
Oh, I'm glad. I had a lot of, Hope knows, yesterday I had trouble with my internet connection, but it's working now. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else have any thoughts about any of this?
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts really. That I think the real attraction of connecting with people is that feeling of being able to have rich conversations and flow. And as Fran was mentioning, you know, it's very useful for training, which is a particular kind of form of that interaction. When we have more natural interaction, which we have in, I suppose storytelling is a form of that, and free-flowing discussion, then there's, I think the major obstacles with video conferencing are simply the glitches that go on where people can't hear each other properly or drop out or whatever. And I think that is sort of an irritation factor that's holding things back a bit. As speeds and reliability gets a bit better, we'll probably have less of that. But of course, you know, the more people you connect with across the world, then the more chances there are that someone's just not going to be able to have a free-flowing conversation because it doesn't flow. So I'm aware that there are things that are reducing the flow that people want from connecting with each other. And that makes me think that we probably need to learn a bit more in the way of techniques of creating that flow, so that as we engage on a Zoom call, we've got the chance to sort of bring back in that liveliness that we get when we are in the room with each other, which is very, you know, we talk over each other, we kind of, we pick up on visual signals better. But although we can't have all of that on a Zoom call, perhaps we can learn to make the liveliness come back again, even if there are some obstacles. I mean, yeah. I do a lot of work with playing games with people and getting people energized, and I think it is possible.
Now with a good telephone connection, people can talk at the same time and talk over each other, which is, you know, it's a kind of embarrassing sometimes, and somebody has to apologize and step back and do what we call conversation repair. You know, there is a field in academia, it was part of Penn folklore actually, conversation analysis, studying how people begin and join and leave and change a conversation, and including how we repair, because sometimes we talk at the same time or go off in other directions. And so it's awkward sometimes in real conversation when we're physically present, when people talk at the same time. And I say somebody has to back off and apologize. It seems, as of yet, Zoom, which is the best video conferencing system I know of, still does not allow us to speak at the same time. If two of us will speak at the same time, I think both of us will be canceled out. So Zoom video conference is still a little behind. We're not able to have multiple people talk at the same time yet, but hopefully that will come. And I want to say that years ago, I was using a video mixer to mix the two images, my image and the other person's image in a video conference. And I have recordings of this I can guide you to. So I was using a video mixer, and sometimes I would use the cross dissolve function. So both of our pictures were superimposed on top of each other, blended in. So not only I mean, it was not that our voices could be on top of each other, but the images of our faces and bodies could be on top of each other. And I enjoyed that. I'm not using a video mixer these days, and I appeal to Zoom or some other program to give us the option of mixing our video images with each other. Why should we all be kept in separate rectangles? The tyranny of compartmentalization of images. We have to overcome it. And of course, we should all be able to change ourselves into different colors and stretch our images and draw on top of our images. I can actually do that kind of special effect, some of it with a program called Eyeglasses. I don't know if anyone else can, but we certainly need to be able to be more creative and playful in this video conference process to make it more human and to make it more fun with storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every medium does have its own flavor. Writing is sometimes said to have a flavor, at least in the past, writing was often done alone. So there are books written, there's a field of study that says that when people write, they are kind of feeling alienated and alone, and that influences the stories they tell and the way they tell a story. That a novel will tend to be more about alienation because of the process by which the novel was created. Storytelling, because we're together and we're bonding with each other and having fun together if things are going well, stories tend to be, the whole thing tends to be warm, including the contents. Video conferencing strikes me as a, we gotta mute somebody. Is everyone on mute? Yeah, video conferencing to me to be an epic medium, because what we're doing is so brilliant and exciting and transformational. To me, it's like a miraculous epic that's going on. But okay, any more thoughts about video conferencing? Wait, we have to mute somebody. My voice is coming back to me. Sheila, I'm not able, oh, there we go. Okay, I fixed it. Hope, are you ready to tell us about your vision for video conferencing and storytelling 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now? How are your activities going to transform the world?
Well, Eric, and you'll excuse my voice because I do have a cold, so I'm going to sound funny. I don't sound like this in real life. In any case, as storytellers, we all have that moment when we're sharing a tale with an audience and the audience gets it and something inside them changes. We have literally changed the world. Maybe just this much of it, but we changed the world for one person. Think what storytelling can do. The work that Fran is doing, the training that Eric is offering, the resources that Tim has offered us. Vermont Folklife Center, thank you, Trish. I mean, we are changing the world. We're just without the ability to reach as far as the video conference allows us to. We can only reach this far. Now, when I have a question about the Mahabharata, and I can't pronounce it, but I'm talking to people in India, and I can say, tell me about this story in the Mahabharata from your point of view. I can learn. The learning blows my mind. It's wonderful. So for me, I just want to change the world.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm feeling is that if we can help change the world of more and more individuals through the experience of storytelling, which is a profound experience. You know, Laura Sims is with us here in Chennai. She's not with us tonight. I think she's exhausted because we've been making her give so many trainings. But she talks so wonderfully about the experience of imagination and sharing and engagement that goes on. She told about how one teenage young woman in her audience some time ago came up to her afterwards and said, she said to Laura, what did you do to me? what did you do to my mind? You know, somehow this person was touched so much and moved and connected with a part of herself, it was disorienting to her. So, you know, the more we can share the storytelling experience even by video conferencing, even though it's weak tea or different tea, I think it's going to hit some kind of critical mass. Anyone else? Comment, question, objection?
Yeah, I was also thinking that, you know, we can inspire people by telling stories, but we can also we can inspire people who aren't aware of how to become a storyteller, how to actually grow into that, and to you know, they don't realize necessarily that it could be a profession or that it could be a skill that they could take, or that anyone cares about it, because, you know, people in many countries are you know, oblivious to storytelling going on, and there are new people discovering it all the time. So just being able to connect over these big distances through the video conference to talk to somebody who is doing it is great. To see them doing it is even better. But if that can really inspire people to take it up or try it for themselves, I found that very much the case. And I've talked to storytellers, you know, all over the world, really, who or people who are sort of becoming interested in storytelling, perhaps in a very applied way, maybe in business rather than entertainment, but they're beginning to think, gosh, there's something here, there's something interesting, but I don't really know what it feels like, and is anyone doing it, and does anyone really listen? I've heard about it, but I'm not sure whether it's true. So this kind of interaction is like very an inspiring affirmation that people can actually you know, grow into this huge field of experience that is very satisfying to lots
Now,
of people.
of course, everyone is a storyteller, but you're talking about having a certain awareness of it and having a certain, I want to say, a dramatic sense of it, or some sort of stage present sense of commanding an audience, or holding an audience, or amazing an audience, or helping people connect to a deeper part of themselves. That's part of developing as a storyteller. So what you're talking is about helping people raise awareness about what storytelling and being a storyteller can be.
But I mean, it can be at a very modest level too. You know, a lot of people don't realize that how we communicate is in stories, and although they may, you know, use a bit of narrative in their conversation, they don't really have a sense that that's what they are doing. So it can be a very modest level, or it can be that really holding people level as well. But of course, holding people's attention is a premium skill now, because everyone's attention is so distracted and pulled in so many different directions that everyone wants to be able to grip somebody for a short time.
I waste a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time looking at recordings on YouTube. And I see there's a lot of people telling their stories of, I shouldn't call it a waste of time, it's really very interesting. A lot of people now talking about challenges they've been through. I was in a mental hospital for 6 months. I was addicted to this, I was addicted to that. I have this disorder, I have that disorder. Very confessional and very intimate in a sense. A lot of people are doing it. And sometimes they say, I'm doing this in order to help you listeners, because if you're going through something similar, I want to give you support. But for whatever reason they're doing it, a lot of people are doing it. I find it an interesting practice that's going on. maybe
I was thinking about this just the other day. Actually, there are people teaching others to tell their confessional story in order to help others, and I think it does. You know, it can do that. It can tell people that that they're not alone, and that there is perhaps somebody who's trod the path before them, and that's one of the things that stories do, to tell others that this journey is real, it's possible. You could be on this journey, or at least you could learn from others' mistakes who have done it before. but there, as well as that sort of past journey of pain, I think storytellers really excel in is the current and the future story of possibility and of fulfillment, because many stories are full of great wisdom, really, and at the very least we can learn what others have done before us that we either do or don't want to repeat ourselves. And of course, all the great traditional stories take you even deeper than that, into more of a wisdom that you can pick up from really immersing yourself in slightly deeper questions. Even if they're dressed up as a simple tale, they've often got more underneath it. So as storytellers, I think we take people into the possibility more, rather than the how to cope with suffering that people do on YouTube and so on, as you said.
Okay, we're getting near the end of the hour, so want to ask anyone who would like to add something, or who hasn't spoken yet, to add your thoughts. Again, the topic is very general. It's the state of storytelling in the world today. Here in India, of course, there's less and less telling of grandmother stories. There's less and less intergenerational living. But still, most people are very aware of the famous characters and the famous episodes, especially in the Mahabharata and in the story of Ram, and in many grandmother stories. Somehow that knowledge of these stories still permeates the culture, and gives a strong social safety net, emotional, cultural togetherness, I feel, goes on here. Around the world, around the world, there's a set of animal fables, and there's a set of fairy tales that are known to many, especially middle class and upper class people around the world. The famous European fairy tales, many of the famous Grimm's fairy tales, many of the animal fables from India, the Panchatantra and the Jataka tales, Aesop's fables. So those stories are part of world oral literature or written literature. They're not really going anywhere. It's still a part of raising children around the world. But we know that local stories traditional stories are dwindling somewhat. But people are still very much talking to each other. That's not going away. And using verbal arts, extending vowels, and speaking soft and loud and quick and slow. Verbal arts are not going anyplace. It's Walter Ong who wrote that Orality and Literacy. He called what we're doing now secondary orality, that it's the new wave of orality by interactive telecommunication. So this may lead to, years ago, to be involved with computers was to be a nerd and to be antisocial. But now, the deeper you get into computers and video games, the more you're heading towards video conferencing, which is social. So, so that social thing is developing, and hopefully storytelling will be a part of it. Okay, please, Hope and everyone else, Fran, add your thoughts.
Yeah, I would like to add something, Eric. Yeah. Okay, so based on what team and you have shared, like the future of video conferencing, what I think that, you know, like there are a lot of researches going on mixed reality, which is like combining virtual and augmented reality. So in future, you know, like it's really possible that we can actually make an immersive way of interacting with each other in video conferencing. Although Zoom is doing a fantastic thing, I think, but you know, like in the future it might be possible that we can come out of the screen and, you know, like interact with each other, you know, like fingers crossed.
Eric, can I speak?
Of course.
Yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, it was interesting listening to each of you all. But you know, we're talking of storytelling as being something that's very satisfying to the storyteller from the point that they're conveying their thoughts. There is also another aspect. There is the therapeutic aspect, I think, which is very important. And this is what a conversation brings in, where so much of isolation is becoming a part of our society. So I think having an audience to listen to a story itself is very therapeutic.
Well, this is like what I say, a system has to be set up, and it should be very easy now that whoever wants to, you know, join a story swap on the spur of the moment, 24 hours a day, you should be able to find 6 other people who want to do the similar thing. Hope, how can we set that up? Do we have to work with Zoom or Facebook or somebody?
I think it's going to happen naturally. One of the things that we are experiencing here in the United States is that we have a very significant generational divide. Those of us who are in the older generation typically don't do all this electronic stuff. The younger generation, however, like my children and grandchildren, are very adept. So I think we're going to continue to progress as we all learn more and it becomes more normal. Of course I'm on Zoom. Of course I'm on Skype. It's the only way I keep in touch from rural Maine. I think it's going to happen, Eric, and I think you're making it happen by bringing together this amazing collection of creative people from around the world. And I thank you.
Well, I thank you, because you're leading the way with the NEST process. There's about 15 trainers. I'm one of them. Fran is one of them, who are preparing a collection, an onslaught of video conference storytelling courses that are going to be available to people all over the world. And as far as I'm concerned, the #1 job for me is to train other people to be trainers, just to make the whole thing multiply. So I really mean it. Tim, how can it be set up so that if people want to join a story swap with 6 other people 24 hours a day, that they can find 6 other people? What has to be done? Do we have to talk to Bill Gates? Do we have to talk to the head of Facebook about this? Who do we have to talk to?
Well, I guess that's fairly simple, really. With a Zoom room, you've got the chance to, anyone can just join it and see if anyone else is there. And then you just need some sort of a group somewhere, maybe on Facebook, that says, you know, do you fancy meeting up now? And yeah, I mean, if there's lots of people, then there may be always somebody there. But to begin with, yeah, you just need somewhere that's online to say, you know, there's a few people fancying a chat. How about now? You can just join in. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not.
Well, it has to be set up and it has to be publicized somehow. It has to become obvious second knowledge to everybody that, what is the word, second knowledge, second nature. It just has to, everyone has to be aware that it's available.
Well, I guess it takes a few people to do it more.
Just a second, Trish. Go ahead, Tim. Finish your thought.
Yeah, it just takes a few people to do it more and actually set up. I mean, what Hope is doing is, is halfway to that. It's not on permanently, but then, that would be a bit of a large commitment to do that. But yes, if there was lots of people wanting to lead it all the time, then they would sort of merge together because they were always going on at the same time. I don't think it's necessary for it to be round the clock.
Oh,
as
it
long
is.
as you know that it's
24 hours. And you're right, Hope is approaching that.
Yeah.
Hope, I'm getting a message from you almost every day that there's a story swap going on. Trish, what were you going to say?
Gotta keep the stories moving.
Yes.
If they stop, they die. We have to keep them moving.
Trish, tell us.
Yeah, no, I love the momentum of this segment of the conversation, and I don't want to be the voice of dissent, but I feel like I'm coming from a very different place as someone. I was born in 1981, so I'm part of a cusp generation who had an analog childhood, but a digital teenage and adult years. And, my participation in digital platforms is partly obligatory. I don't love it. I'm adept at it because I went through schooling doing that work. I'm a professional in digital storytelling platforms, but I see them as a gateway to what is the real stuff to me, which is live performance, intimate face-to-face dialogue, and kind of the live or the space that's created around having these exchanges that enter into a different sort of temporal world, like a different time and space that's designated for these very precious and special exchanges. And for me, live performance and storytelling is the most powerful stuff that we have available to us, especially to combat some of the compartmentalization and dehumanization that's happening in the digital age. And so I feel like my participation in digital platforms is there as a activism or as a way to interrupt what I feel like is taking us away from what we should be just doing in our local communities, face to face with the people around us. Yes, it's important to have global exposure to different approaches, but ultimately the hope is to get it to a place where we're recognizing and valuing how precious it is to create those live spaces together.
And by live and face-to-face, you mean physically present?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Well, as Laura has used the metaphor that it's like a bird that has two wings. One wing is the physically present, and the other wing is the telecommunication. And that to be balanced, it's good to have both. Yeah, yes, Fran.
I'd like to alter that metaphor a little. A bird uses its feet or talons to grip onto things, and I think that's where the video conferencing can be useful for training and for communication. But the wings are for flying. And years ago, I wrote an article about the trance that people sometimes fall into when they hear certain types of stories. I don't think that can happen in isolation. I think it's a group phenomenon that is extremely ancient. And when I've seen it happen to a room full of people, whether it's 20 or 200, they breathe together. They get very, very still. It's an amazing thing. And that's kind of a culmination of flight, like where some kinds of birds can rise and circle on a rising column of air without flapping, without any effort. It just kind of happens. That's an extraordinary thing. It's a very profound experience. And I don't think there's any way that the internet can function that way because it has to happen in groups. But in order to get the people together, they need to know what's out there, and they need to have trained people who can do it. So I think just as the bird has two wings, it also has its feet, and that's very important, and that's maybe where we can ground people with this function.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm going to be launching a course soon in that's teaching change makers, people who are in business but have a sort of positive vision they're applying it to, and teaching them to take on something of the role of a storyteller, not just to tell a business story or whatever, but to behave like storytellers do. And I think this skill is actually really important because storytellers behave in a certain way and they take on a certain role socially and for groups that is not just about entertainment. It's a proactive behavior that draws people together and draws people into feeling community and various other aspects to that connection that we can create. So that is something that a lot of people don't get very much from just having a conversation, because they don't really feel that deep connection that a storyteller can provoke by drawing people into that deep experience together. So storytellers have this very important role, and most people don't know what that role is because they're not familiar with storytellers in their life. So I think it's very, very important to actually understand what our role is that we're not even conscious of necessarily as storytellers, and pass some of that on, because that can really shift how people engage with each other when they do their group conversations and so on. They realize what's possible. Even if they're not going to be a storyteller, they can be someone who draws people into deep connection. And that's, after all, one of the main benefits of storytelling. So that's, and of course, very, very much so in this modern world of disconnection, alienation, and loneliness. So, you know, that our role of just sparking those connections deeply, feeling that sense of community, is something that a lot of people have no idea how to do. And I think by passing on what skills we have in that, that is very, very valuable. Telling stories is a great medium to do that, but we should also recognize that just our attitude and our values has something to contribute to.
I always feel that a storyteller becomes the host of a social situation and is responsible for, does everyone feel okay? Is the air conditioning correct? Is everyone comfortable? And then the storyteller can take us all on a imagination journey together. But primarily it's a social hosting role to me. Anyone else? Vasugi, Ambuja, anyone? Chitra, Banu, Sushan? Yes, Banu.
Yes. As story started, it started as an oral medium long time ago. And still it is surviving. And now at present, we are able to connect to from this end of the world to the other end. Still story survives. The base is there. Though the medium, physical presence or the virtual connection, whatever matters, stories is carrying us. Stories are carrying us. So being a storyteller, connecting to worldwide through Hope's Virtual Storytelling Guild, what I feel is connecting to different parts of the world through stories and listening to them and sharing our stories with them matters a lot. As Eric said, connecting to people to tell and listen to stories around the clock, 365 days. 24/7 is something, a great vision, which Hope started a year ago with 1 day in a month. Now it's 3 days a month. So which is something amazing. So what your vision is, Eric, it has already started. So all that, how to market or how to do it, how to facilitate it, when you asked, it was like, it has to be done by somebody. We have to really start working towards it, so that like-minded people would definitely, people who are searching for something, they would definitely drop in and they will get the information, and yes, we will get connected. And next, what I would like to share is, when we tell stories in person, nothing can replace that, for sure. When we tell in front of a camera, still we can see people who are watching us, that too very closely to our face, and the movement and movement restrictions within the frame, which I personally learned in this year, was really an amazing thing. So the movement restrictions and the expressions, whichever we can share, but whatever is required inside a frame, this is a skill, I would say, which is developed through modern day of storytelling where we are now. So thank you very much for hosting this. It's been a pleasure to learn under Eric and to be a part here in Chennai. And we are really thoroughly enjoying Chennai Storytelling Festival here. So thank you very much.
Anyone else want to say anything? Vasugi.
Yes. I think we are at an era where there are so many differences and alienation between people and countries and everybody. And I think the one way we can overcome is by sharing our culture, our stories, everything with each other across the globe. And the one way we can do it is via the internet and video conferencing. What else do we need? So we should go ahead and look for the 24 hours of storytelling, and we will have more connectivity. People will understand each other more, and we will break down walls more than ever before. The net is a free space, right? Make use of it and let us break walls. Let us have more connectivity. Let us understand each other better. That's what stories are meant to do. So instead of looking at all the negative aspects, let us look at the positive ones and get going. That should be our message for CSF 2020. What do you think? Right?
Okay.
Thank you.
And, you know, sharing stories is there. Finally, we're sharing ourselves.
Exactly, to add to what was told now, actually, I exactly felt the same thing. Like, we are miles apart, and it doesn't feel like that when we use this video conferencing thing and share stories. It's like as though our cultures merge somewhere. We all are from the same alma mater. That's what the feeling that comes when we share stories across the globe from different cultures. So I think, like, we should, appreciate the positives of using this video conferencing and all the technology, and just enjoy that. Wherever the in-person thing can't happen, this is a wonderful alternative.
Okay. Shall anyone else like to speak, or shall we end the session? I think we're going to end the session. I'll put the recording on YouTube. I'll send you all the links. So going. I'll stop the recording and then we can say goodbye without the recording. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now. There we go.